All righty, council, I'll call us to order for our special council meeting. All righty. All right, so I'll call us to order again at 46, excuse me. Does any member of council have a pecuniary interest in the in-camera session? Seeing none, then I'll move on to item 3I, which is moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Saunders, that in accordance with the Town of Penetanguishene Procedural Bylaw 27-86, the Council of the Town of Penetanguishene move into in-camera session to discuss a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. Mover and seconder for that motion. Or sorry, you already got that. Comments or questions? Seeing none, then all in favor? And we'll adjourn in camera into the back room, please. We'll be back shortly, folks. Alrighty, council, so it's moved by the deputy mayor, moved by Councillor Saunders, seconded by the deputy mayor, that the council of the town of Penetanguishene rise from in-camera session with a report. All in favor of that motion? That is carried. And it's moved by Councillor Levy, seconded by Councillor Lauder, that Part 6, save and accept a daylight triangle on reference plan 51R-11577, being a portion of La Couronne Avenue, be declared surplus to the needs of the municipality, that the town of Penetanguishene sell a parcel to Chris Butwick, owner of the adjacent property at 130 Burke Street land, for $4,400 plus cost and HST. Final comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of that? That is carried. And a mover and second to adjourn us at 6:58, I believe it is. Oh, sorry, thank you. Question period from the media or public. Andrew, everybody's good? Okay, and a motion to adjourn, please. Councillor Rawson, Deputy Mayor, all in favor? We are adjourned, and then we'll reconvene council at 7 o'clock. All righty, council, I'll call us to order for our council meeting at 7 o'clock. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming out. I know it's Game 7 for the Leafs tonight, so I appreciate everybody coming out on a rainy night and joining in on this council meeting. Council, if you can stand and join me in the council commitment, please. We are grateful for the many gifts which have been bestowed upon Penetanguishene and its citizens, including the gifts of freedom, opportunity, and peace that we enjoy. May we be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. We ask that all in attendance and those who could not be here to assist us in promoting good government, may our decisions as members of council be enlightened. May we all be strengthened in our awareness of our duties and responsibilities. May we be granted the wisdom, knowledge, will, and understanding to preserve the good fortune of the town for the benefit of all, to make good laws and wise decisions. Maybe ask everybody to stand for a moment too, and that tragedy in Toronto, maybe reflect on that for maybe 20 seconds of silence. Thank you very much. Okay, I'll move on to item number 3, approval of tonight's agenda. And I don't have the motion in front of me, so I'll just look for a mover and seconder that the agenda of the regular council meeting of April 25th, 2018 be approved as presented. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Mayotte, Councillor Lauder, any comments, questions on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote then. All in favor? And that is carried. Any member have just declaration of pecuniary interest in tonight's council session? Seeing none at this time, if you find yourself in that position as we move along, let us know and we'll address it appropriately. Moving on to agenda item number 5, we have deputations and presentations, and we have 4 of those tonight. And the first one up is a presentation from Huronia Historical Parks, Gary Mulliner on Festivals and Events Ontario. So Gary's here somewhere. There he is. Hey, Gary. Oh, almost close. Gary, Bob. Bob, how are you?
Mayor Marshall, Council, thank you for giving us the opportunity tonight to come here and provide this this award presentation to you. If anyone doesn't know me, I'm Bob Archibald. I'm the manager of operations over at Discovery Harbour. I have the honor of working with a great team that's created events like Pumpkin Furno, Skate Trail, the Ghost Tours, and the Pirate Festival over there. Earlier this year, we received an award from Festival and Events Ontario for our Pumpkin Furno event. It's the FEO celebrates events that have seen increases over the year, and we were awarded one of the top 100 events in Ontario. So it was, a real honor to get that. Okay. Just a couple of fun facts about Pumpkin Furno if you haven't made it out there. This year we saw over 18,000 guests, 44% increase over the previous year. That generated approximately $1.3 million to the local economy. So that was a really great impact. We had our first accessibility night where we offered residents to come in to see the event to drive through in a bus. So we wanted to make sure that they were met too. We also raised 5,000 pounds of food for St. Vincent de Paul Society Food Bank, and we raised over $6,000 for Jumpstart for youth sports. All of this is only possible with great partnerships, great community support, so we really wanted to thank the Town of Penetanguishene Council, Mayor, for all of your support, and we would like to present a plaque celebrating this award that we got. So.
Well, thank you. Maybe I'll ask Recreation chairs and vice chairs to join me. We'll accept the plaque, and maybe Stacy, if we can get a picture, please.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate all the support.
Thank you. All righty. Listen, they want us out front. Don't want us to be shy.
Sneak in.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Very much. Just before you leave the room, though, I mean, certainly from a council perspective, the HHP is great partners. Your efforts over the last couple of years have been tremendous. The impact on the town of Penetanguishene, the partnering with our staff in terms of our summer festivals, in terms of our Winterama, it's been well received. It's a great two-way partnership, and we appreciate everything you do. And nice of you to join us here tonight. But I thank you for the other 364 days of the year when you're just out doing good work for us. So thanks again. Another round of applause, everybody. Moving on to agenda item number 5B, and deputation from Lorna Tomlinson regarding 161 Church Street. Lorna, welcome.
Don't want to read the wrong thing. There you go. Everybody knows my name. This is in case I'm a wandering senior and I get lost and have to tell me who I am. Anyhow, thank you very much for allowing me to speak this evening. I'm a resident of Penetanguishene, and that's my claim to fame. First of all, congratulations to the town for being chosen as a site to build 50 affordable housing units by the county of Simcoe. It's a great opportunity, and I sincerely hope council will take full advantage, as these opportunities don't come along very often. Indeed, it might be many, many years before the town is offered affordable housing again. Not only does Penetang need affordable housing, it also needs more rental accommodation. I'd like to clarify what we're talking about is affordable housing. It's not social housing. It's not rent geared to income housing. Affordable housing is rental accommodation where the rent is set at no more than 80% of the average market rent. That's not a huge reduction in the cost of rent, but it is a significant one, especially if you're a senior living on a fixed income, or if you're only one wage earner in the family, or just beginning your career. If you're just entering the workforce, affordable housing is essential for you. We do have lots of jobs available in North Simcoe. You see now hiring signs just about everywhere. I know a number of the businesses, especially manufacturing, would like to expand, but they can't find the workers. They can't find the employees. People newly entering the workforce often don't stay in town, and out-of-town potential employees are not moving to the area because there is no rental accommodation available to them. If they can't find a place to live, there's no point in them accepting the job. So I'd like you to hear from some of our other services in town that are also struggling with the housing issue every day. So first, I'd like to call on Sherry from Wendat Community Programs.
Well, it's almost tall enough I can hide. Anyways, hello. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk. I'm the person at Wendat who takes care of most of the stats. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. The stats will prove the need for more affordable housing in Penetanguishene. On April 19th, 2018, the Midland Mirror put an article titled, "The Number of Low-Income Residents in Midland Region on the Rise." They stated that in Penetanguishene, 16.1% of residents fell within the low-income bracket, nearly double the 8.7% in 2006. We have a shortage of stock of housing, and what is out there is not affordable. I searched 9 rental sites today looking for housing for a single person. Found 2 one-bedroom in Penetang, a studio and a room. The average rent for the one-bedroom in Penetang is $1,000 plus utilities. The studio was $1,200, and the only room available was $900. A single person on disability receives $1,120. Ontario Works is $721. And a senior getting the maximum on CPP Old Age and guaranteed supplement is $1,470.20. From Stats Canada, 33.4, or a third of the population in Penetang, is seniors. If the statistics are right, nearly half of all seniors are considered low income in Penetang. How can anyone on Ontario Disability, Ontario Works, or CPP and GIS afford to live in Penetang? You won't be able to eat, have a phone, watch TV, or even leave your apartment, things you and I take for granted. Having more affordable places to live is one of the best things that could happen to Penetanguishene. I want to add one thing. Today is the County of Simcoe's count for homelessness, the enumeration. We have staff out counting. Today, a staff found a gentleman who was 87 years old who is living in a motel. He's been there 7 years because he can't find suitable and affordable housing. We had another incident where a lady who's paying probably 75% of her housing cost to pay for her rent. She ran out of money just last week and had to sell herself in order to buy milk to give her brother milk for his cereal. We need affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Can I ask, is Nikki Wakeland in the room? Hi. So Nikki's our next speaker. She is from Georgian Bay Native Friendship Center. Thanks, Nikki.
Good evening, thank you. So I'm the outreach worker for the Georgian Bay Native Friendship Center. I didn't really dress for the occasion because I've been part of the pit count for the last 2 days. Our numbers are so far 100 people between Midland and Penetang that are homeless and have been surveyed. That's just within 24 hours. With my program in the last 3 months, I've served 158 families. We have no homes to put them in, so what I do, speaking to what Sherry had said, they can't afford food, so I help feed them. All of their money goes to rent. They have nothing left. There is absolutely no affordable housing that these individuals can find. Like Sherry had said, most of our rents are up to the $1,200 with utilities not included. Single working mothers, fathers, they can't afford it. So to push anything off or not allow the housing to be built here would just further the housing crisis we're in. That's all, thank you.
Thanks, Nikki. Can I tell them your personal story? Nikki works full-time at the Native Friendship Center, and she has a part-time job, but she's a single mom. She's having to move. She's a housing worker, and she can't find rental accommodation for herself with 2 incomes coming in. It's very sad. Now I'd like to call on Taya from Habitat for Humanity.
Oh boy, this is kind of sad. My name is Thea Saramaki, and I'm representing Habitat for Humanity, this North Simcoe chapter. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. Habitat for Humanity has only been able to provide homes for 2 families in Penetanguishene, and we're planning on a build in 2018 for 1 home, which is going to be in Midland. And that obviously doesn't meet the needs of the community. The families that we have placed in homes, they're doing very well, and they're contributing to the economy locally, and it's fantastic to give them that opportunity to leave substandard housing to go into a home with Habitat. But we don't have a ton of resources for making this happen. And this sounds like a really good opportunity for Penetanguishene to bring people into this area that can be working toward contributing taxes to the local economy and making a better life for themselves. We know affordable housing provides more than just shelter. it delivers hope. We know that people inside these homes are able to move from surviving to thriving. We know that when a community has affordable housing, the need for emergency services declines. We know in speaking with local housing authorities 10 years ago that there were approximately 1,000 families that needed affordable housing in the towns of Penetanguishene, Midland, and the townships of Tiny and Tay, and we strongly believe that this need is greater than ever. We know that having safe and affordable housing makes families healthier, happier, safer, and contributing members of strong communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Taya. So to conclude, we need more rental housing stock, and if it's affordable housing at the same time, all the better. Hopefully you did read the articles in the Mirror last week that Sherry referred to. They stated Penetanguishene has 16.1% of our residents below the low-income mark. That's double from where we were in 2006. So the situation is clearly getting worse. People who do have decent housing, as Taya was saying, they use less healthcare services, they use less emergency services, they stay employed, they advance their careers, and they contribute more to our society. So housing is such a basic and a fundamental part of everyone's life. So please, please follow through with a public meeting process needed for the zoning amendment on the county's approved site for this affordable housing project. If you don't proceed with this site, Penetank will lose these affordable housing units. Don't let the people and the businesses of Penetanguishene miss out on this golden opportunity. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Lorna. And on to agenda item number 5C. So we have a deputation from John Barrett Hamilton, Mike DeCourcy, Ross Byrne, Jeff Beeston, and Barry Sargent. So welcome, John. And I guess the rules of engagement this group presented last week. So, John, it's a 5-minute deputation, and it needs to be new information for council's attention, please.
Your Worship, members of council, firstly, I'd just like to personally thank Katie and Sherry and Mickey for coming up today and telling us your story. I greatly appreciate hearing it, and I think my remarks will be in support of what you're trying to say. Your Worship, our deputation will be no more than 5 minutes per person. We'll be right within the rules that have been conveyed to us. Each of us will be short, brief, and to the point.
Sorry, I'm going to look for the clerk for clarification. I thought the group was 5 minutes in total, Stacy?
That's at the call of the chair. It can be, if it's determined that the information being provided is redundant in nature, then the information can be reduced. The time amount allotted for each individual can be reduced, but each person is delegated to the 5 minutes maximum.
Thank you. So I think maybe, John, in fairness then for yourself and Mike and Ross, we'll give you 5, and then we'll give a separate 5 for Jeff and Barry.
I think it's fair. We're not going to go over many of the details, the engineering ideas, the points that we covered before. In fact, our presentation is going to be very much like what you just heard, personal stories, the feelings of people in the community, and how their life is today. So I'll begin. Your Worship and council members, as you know, I am the current chair of the Board of Directors for Waypoint Center for Mental Health Care, located here in Penetanguishene, and I'm a resident of Payette Drive. As you may also know, at Waypoint, we play a leading role in the treatment of mental health and addiction, and we are directly and indirectly enabling active, positive activities in the community which support the prevention of negative mental health care conditions and tragedies. That may not seem like I'm speaking as a resident right now, but I want to say this, that at tonight's deputation, which is about rezoning a property identified as 161 Church Street, I am a member of this community team of speakers posted or focusing on rezoning issues related to this street. Our team of speakers share the Waypoint values and point of view, and understand that Penetang needs affordable housing, as we have just heard, as well as Midland, as well as many other places. This group also enables, the group also feels positive in terms of providing and creating positive opportunities for people in our town and in our community to move ahead with their lives. We also understand that the open space at 161 Church Street plays an important role in providing our Penetang resident community with positive contact with nature, for a place of fun and relaxation, moments of freshness and vitality overlooking the harbor in a property unequaled elsewhere in our town. And we understand that its existence enables positive opportunities for our people and our town. It is our hope and belief that all residents can have both housing and open space. Clearly important, both high valued, both impacting everybody's daily activities and their spirit. For clarity, we are here tonight to speak against the rezoning of 161 Church Street. That doesn't mean we're against all other places and all the other multiple options that are in town, because we're not. We really want to find housing and more of it. We're not here to speak against affordable housing on Church Street or in Penetang or anywhere else. In our view, affordable housing conditions contribute directly to positive mental health and family unity. We are here to speak about a major Penetanguishene community land resource, Rolling Sands subdivision, of which 161 Church Street is a major portion. We are here because this tremendous land asset has come under immense pressure for change. We do think that the loss of the essence of the Rolling Sands asset is a significant loss to the entire community of Penetanguishene. We want the open space zoning for 161 Church Street to remain unchanged, as my fellow speakers will now explain in the stories that they have to tell. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council, and residents of Penetanguishene. I'm here to speak this evening about the signed contract and the agreement we have with the town of Penetanguishene registered on title. Although the agenda tonight reads 161 Church Street affordable housing, I'm here to speak about the issues surrounding the intent, rezoning the open space land, and in particular 161 Church Street for development. Whether or not it is for the Trump Tower, a Mac's Milk Store, or a police station is irrelevant. It's about the signed agreement we have with this town. In 1982, my wife and I decided to move back to our hometown of Penetanguishene. At that time, Rolling Sands Estates was the latest subdivision that had just been developed in town. I had arranged a meeting at the town office with the town planner, Paul Hodgins, and clerk Yvonne Gagne, along with my father-in-law, Mike Lethbridge, who was at that time the chair of the Committee of Adjustment for the town of Penetanguishene. There were enlarged zoning maps, charts, diagrams, all on display throughout the office, with the town's planned vision of Rolling Sands Estates. No different than when I attended here a few months ago when the planning department had on display their vision of the future of Penetang. So just like any one of us starting a new family and moving into the new subdivision, I had questions. I wanted to know, where was the town planning for the schools in the area? What was the town's planning for variety stores in the area? What was the town's planning for future housing in the area? But I especially wanted to know what was planned for intention of Block O, the open space directly behind me. And the response to me at the time from all three, Paul Hodges, Yvonne Gagne, Mike Lethbridge, was nothing. It will remain the same as planned. Open space, natural parkland, right-of-ways between every third house for the community to access from Payette Drive. The open space was the town's drawing card. The open space was a selling feature for all lots in Rolling Sands Estates. The open space is what the town used to justify charging a potential buyer 85% more for a lot on the open space than across the street. There was no reason for me to believe that the planner and the clerk were not telling me the truth. There was no reason for me to believe that this was a misrepresentation of sale. There was certainly no reason to believe that my father-in-law would lie or mislead me. I would like to ask council at this time to keep the open space as planned as part of the vision for all persons to enjoy in the community. Thank you.
Your Worship, councilors, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Barry Sargent. This is a little history, being the first persons to build in Phase 2 of Rolling Sands Estates. Surrounded by nothing but sand, there we were building a house. When I made the offer down to the offices in Penetanguishene, we had to return to the property that we were discussing. And of course, the sold sign was applied to lot 35, was the one we bought, toward the end of the hill, overlooking the hill at that time. And as Mike mentioned, although the price was expensive for that time, we were assured that the view was worth it. I had to agree with that. It certainly was spectacular, and I was assured that in the future there would be no structures built there. Well, that helped convince me this is the place to buy. Our town officials wisely labeled the open space below, not only to have the premier lots to sell, but more importantly, to ensure the stability of that hill. The land, the rolling sands, hence its name, gravel-based nature, presented significant erosion problems. In compensation for these problems, the councillors of the day had the land groomed and graded and covered with soil. And in time, the whole hill greened over. We could watch that as we were building our home. It came alive. It worked. Now, the people in Rolling Sands also appreciate this view. We're not the only ones. We're a community up there. The whole hilltop enjoys that view and enjoys the strolling through that property, riding the bikes, the kids riding their bikes, people walking their dogs, people just jogging, people walking. It's something we all appreciate. It's a gem, it's a jewel. Surely the representatives of the past council did not expect that the land would be further designated residential high density, as is proposed. Large excavation into the hillside will be required to build the multi-unit dwellings. So doing, it jeopardizes the integrity of the hill, the stability of the land. Do we ignore the thought the planning, the money given to preserve this useful natural area and blithely undo the work done by previous councils, such as Gil Robillard, Yvonne Gagné, Paul Hodges. My wife and I have spent a large part of our lives here. That's over 70 years for her. Maybe I shouldn't mention that. 50 for me. As young people raising our children, tobogganing on the hill, using it, the proposed site, and as adults teaching at at James Keating, which was formerly Corpus Christi, École Saint Joseph, our future townspeople. We have a history with the town. We only have the best interest of the town and its children and its families at heart. We ask the council, to whom we have entrusted our town's future, to ensure the preservation of the open space designated at 161 Church Street and uphold the town's original covenant with us. Please vote against the proposal to change the zoning.
Good evening, Councillors and Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Jeff Beeston. I live at 58 Payette, which is directly east of 161 Church. My wife and I moved here 18 years ago, and we bought our first home in the Rolling Sands subdivision. When we purchased our home, we researched the area and the plans for the subdivision. We learned that the field behind our property was zoned open space, a protected green zone in the subdivision. Our neighborhood is a special community with the field at its center. Our children and their friends grew up playing in the field. And as our family grew, we made an educated decision to stay in the community we love, believing the open space behind us was protected. I was at the council meeting on April 11th, during which the rezoning of 161 Church Street from open space to RMXX was first presented to council. I was disappointed to hear that when the property was first put forward to council in 2016, council was provided with incorrect information about its zoning. And then it wasn't until 2018 that council was notified of this error. And I can't help but wonder if we'd even be here having this conversation, but for that initial and critical error. I was also a little disappointed at the apparent lack of transparency in this process. Our first indication that there was a plan for 161 Church Street was drilling rigs in the field. And it took multiple visits for residents to come into town hall to find out there was any plan for an apartment building and a parking lot in the field. After the last meeting and hearing the information the councilors were presented with, we felt we needed to seek out more information and educate ourselves. So a group of us, myself and 3 other residents, went to the county office and met with the county planner, the director of social housing, and the engineer that was involved in the process to get more information about the project. I think a mistake was made when the land was first presented to council. I think this is an issue about rezoning, an open space that was carefully planned, a green space that is valued by the residents and is being used as it was intended initially. Thank you.
Thank you. And then next up now, sorry, Ross, your first 2 speakers went 7 minutes, so you've already spoken.
And council. Good evening. My name is Ross Spearn, and I live in Rolling Sands subdivision. Thank you for, again, listening to our concerns and to our vision for this town. By way of introduction, I'm not an expert, but I'm certainly no stranger to planning matters. I was on town planning board for many years, 15 as chair. I served on the town's downtown development committee, was an original member of what later became the Severn Sound Committee, and have been on the town's committee of adjustment for over 10 years. My presentation is to be a synopsis of the main points made this evening. Addressing the official plan and zoning first, policies and practices in both of these documents speak out of both sides of the mouth. Town staff have correctly cited articles that support the reasoning for this proposal. For example, advantages of infilling, higher densities, more efficient use of infrastructure, protection of well water. They point out rezoning is always an option, together with a process that provides for public input. They say that the official plan designates this open space as neighborhood residential. Again, this is all true. On the other hand, nowhere do these reports cite, from the same documents, that significant topological and heritage features will be preserved, the town's namesake, that steep slopes like rolling sands must be protected, that every effort will be made to provide easy access to recreation, that efforts will be made to, and I quote, protect environmentally sensitive areas and scenic views of the harbor, close quotes. And importantly, that an official plan designation of neighborhood residential actually includes having open space within it. From a zoning standpoint, open space is the zone for parkland. There is no clearer way of stating intention or vision than through zoning, which happened over 40 years ago. We understand how this project meets provincial edicts for intensifying land use. What we question is why council would choose public parkland. We know of other less precious parcels available, and some of them are right in our neighborhood. My neighbors have described how they purchased property being promised this public green space. Changing open space to anything else, never mind to the opposite end of the spectrum, residential multiple, was not even a consideration then. We too are aware of the out clause, saying that you can change this agreement. But that sentence continues to say, quote, providing nothing is added or makes the restrictive covenants more onerous to the purchasers, close quotes. We believe your changes constitute onerous. My wife and I actually raised this with our lawyer, Haig, Hacker, and Lenny, when purchasing 45 years ago. Their response was, surely the town wouldn't solicit you with a covenant they never intended to honor after the purchase. Furthermore, the sincerity of their intent is reflected by the zoning and the provision of 4 large entryways through the private properties. Previous speakers described the heavy use of Rolling Sands Park. It is probably the only 4-season park in town. All winter sports, not skating, occur there. It is used daily as a walking trail and shortcut up the escarpment, a viewing platform of the harbor, especially in the fall. It's spectacular. Workers from the factories eat lunch sitting on the grass or in their cars overlooking the vista. I could go on, but you see, it's far more than a residential backyard. Future need for this park will only increase as development above the hill expands north towards Cambridge Street, putting even more pressure for use on this valuable open space. Considering all the above, we wonder why council would choose to support a motion that county has told us will eventually include, and here are the documents, 2 4-story buildings, each housing approximately 50 apartment units, paved parking for, by code, approximately 150 vehicles, completely fence in the 5.5 acres from Church Street to Payette on 3 sides, essentially reducing usable park space by a factor of 50%, and restricts access to only off of Lorne Avenue. Have fully 1/2 of this project within the 100-meter wellhead protection area. Necessarily, there will be huge resculpting of the 60-foot high embankment. This is published county information. We know county wants to be efficient with tax dollars. It's their job. But this, now, big project, they said, has an economy of scale. We get that. And while we respect this commitment, in this case, to lose 5 acres of unique municipal open space is just too great. I'm worried and sad about the loss of public park space. I'm terrified about well contamination and bank stability. We have seen and used videos of housing sliding down the engineered approved hillsides. This is not how I envisioned getting waterfront. And we all have read about well contamination that simply wasn't possible. Walkerton, our own Champlain Road well, and the multiple examples of leachings of pollutants from who knows where. All of these wells were engineered to be safe with municipal protection. Every accident had professional approval, guaranteed to be safe. But still, in closing, Have you noticed that I haven't mentioned demographics? We have already stated we understand the need for and support the concept of diverse housing and affordable housing. That's not what we're talking about. My immediate neighbor is a group home, and Wendat is in our block. But we do not support mixed use in a heritage public parkland, when the location means reducing both public parkland and access to it. We are appealing to your sense of justice and fair play, to honor council's ethical commitment to transactions made in good faith. It is for these reasons we are asking you to say no to starting a rezoning application for what is described to be the 5.5-acre 161 Church Street site. We thank you for your time, and we'd be pleased to answer your questions if there's any time.
Thank you for that. So next up, 5D, deputation from Deputy Mayor of Tiny Township, who sits on our local North Simcoe Housing Committee, as does our Deputy Mayor. Stefan, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Marshall, members of council. Thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to speak tonight. I wanted to preface, while the agenda identifies me as a county councillor, I am here in my capacity as a member of the North Simcoe Housing Working Group. This group shares a vision of adequate, appropriate, and affordable housing for all Simcoe County residents. We have a variety of partners in our membership, ranging from NGOs, not-for-profits, municipalities, as well as private partnership. We have some of our members here tonight, and Anita is the Penetanguishene rep, as Mayor Marshall had pointed out. Appropriate housing is an important vehicle for improved health, community vitality, economic prosperity, and social sustainability. Across the affordable housing developments, County Council approved that affordable rents would be capped at, and I guess I could probably skip the next portion of my speech, as Ms. Tomlinson did a great job of summarizing stats within the county. A couple of the pieces that were missed is we are falling short. Penetang, and I want to commend you guys, have done a spectacular job to date. You guys have reached 40 affordable housing units since 2014, and your goal, or target goal, was 44. But as a county, we're supposed to be reaching 2,685 units by 2024, and to date we've only reached 544 across the county. So there's still this very real need for affordable housing in our communities. We had a lot of members talk about the need for seniors housing. It's not just seniors, it's our millennials as well. Young people entering the workforce, children living in basements are still underhoused. This is an opportunity that I think we should be exploring. So I don't really have much more to add, other than if there are questions about what the Affordable Housing Working Group does, I'd be happy to address those. Or that's it for tonight, guys. I'm sorry.
No worries. Any questions for Stefan on that? No. Thank you very much, Stefan. Thanks for coming out. Appreciate it. Moving on to agenda item. Where did that come from? There we go. 6A, moved by Councillor Saunders, second by the Deputy Mayor, that the following minutes of council meetings be confirmed and adopted as circulated. Council minutes, April 25th, 2018. Committee of the Whole minutes, April 25th, 2018. Any errors, comments, or omissions on those minutes? See none, I'll call for the vote then. All in favor? That is carried. Just for those folks leaving, council will be addressing the subject here in probably about 5 minutes if you want to stick for the conversation. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 7A, presentation, consideration, and reports from Committee of the Whole. First one up in front of us is moved by Councillor LaRue, second by Councillor Mayotte, that the recommendations contained within Committee of the Whole report related to the Recreation and Community Services section be approved. Anyone wish to pull any of these items for discussion? See none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? That is carried. On the Planning and Development, moved by Councillor Levy, second by Councillor Lauder, that the recommendations contained within the Committee of the Whole report related to the Planning and Development Services section be approved. And I do personally want to pull the application for affordable housing 161. Does anyone wish to pull any of the others? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? That is carried. And I'll turn the chair over to the Deputy Mayor for 161, please.
So the motion before us is that the Town of Penetang-Machine initiate a zoning bylaw amendment for the property at 161 Church Street to rezone the lands from open space zone OS to residential multi-density exemption zone RM-XX, and that the notice of the public meeting under the Planning Act be provided in accordance with the regulations issued pursuant to the Planning Act. Do I have a mover? Moved by Council Mayor Marshall?
No, sorry, I wanted to speak to it if I could.
Yes.
I pulled it to speak to it, thank you. So listen to the residents over the last couple of weeks, emails, phone calls, conversations, listening to council. So really, there's two conversations going on here. We have the rezoning conversation going on, and of course, we have the affordable housing conversation going on. Usually those two things are two separate discussions because of how this is unfolded. Both discussions are co-mingling. So I heard council members last term, or 2 weeks ago, want to have a special meeting with the County of Simcoe. Council was voted 5-4 in favor of moving forward with the rezoning. So I thought, the best solution to this problem is to have both conversations occur in front of council. So I'm looking for a seconder for the following motion, an amendment to the main motion, that the Town of Penetang initiate a zoning bylaw amendment for property at 161 Church Street to rezone the lands from open space zone OS to residential multi-density exception zone RMXX. That is exactly the same as the other one. Here's with a slight change in that a notice of public meeting under the Planning Act be provided in accordance with the regulations issued pursuant to the Planning Act on May 23rd, 2018. So today's April 25th, I'm saying May 23rd, 2018. And that the County of Simcoe be requested to host an open house during the week of May 14th, so halfway through that period, to present information to council and to the public on the potential development and associated preliminary findings to date. And I look for a seconder for that.
Before. I know. Yes, Councillor Louder.
Excuse me. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to clarify that this is going to guarantee that we do have an open house so that everyone, the public and the county, can bring forth their ideas so that we have a full understanding of what is being brought forth. And that'll happen, sorry, not necessarily a full, but a very comprehensive understanding. And that will happen before council makes any movement on the zoning bylaw change?
Yes, I understand that is correct, Councillor Louder. Further discussion? Councillor Saunders.
Again, clarification, Madam Chair. Can I assume that if indeed we are voting on the mayor's amendment, we are not voting on the entire motion?
That is correct. We would vote on the amendment first, yes. Further discussion, Your Worship?
I think, the opportunity for us to have a healthy discussion, if you think about it, I know some people are worried that, if you go down this rezoning public planning process, that the town's committed to actually rezoning the property and allowing the County of Simcoe to build. With clarity, council, every member of this council knows that's not in fact the case. We just went through a rezoning application for Queen's Court that we denied, and nothing got built, and we didn't rezone it. So there's no jeopardy in having a proper conversation and following the Planning Act. There's no harm in having that open session, because that actually meets members of council last time said, listen, I want the county in here before I make a decision. This provides for that opportunity for council to make that decision. And as much as I appreciate some of the feedback that came from our deputations, the county doesn't fence properties. The county doesn't do some things that were perhaps represented here tonight. So I think we need to have a wholesome conversation, and I think this provides for it.
Discussion. Seeing none, then I will call for the vote on the amendment. Would you like it read again, members of council, or are we all set to go forward? We're set to go forward. Okay, so I will call for the vote. All those in favor of the amendment that is on the floor at the moment? So those against? So it is denied. Thank you. So I will now go to the original motion. Your worship, did you want me to carry on, or do you want to go back since this is your meeting?
You've got the chair, that's fine.
Okay. So I will read the motion that's before us, that the town of Penetanguishene initiate a zoning bylaw amendment for the property at 161 Church Street to rezone the lands of open space zone to residential multi-density exemption zone, RMX, and that the notice of a public meeting under the Planning Act be provided in accordance with the regulations issued pursuant to the Planning Act. And I need a mover and a seconder for this.
I'll move it.
So moved by His Worship, second by Councillor Levy. I may ask if I could ask the planner for an explanation in reference to the planning and a public meeting. How does that unfold, Andrea? And why is it unfolding together? I mean, we're not really, this motion does not change the zoning. Is that correct?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. That is correct. Initiating a zoning bylaw amendment does not change the zoning.
That comes later. Thank you. Is there further discussion on this motion? Yes, Councillor Saunders.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Over the course of the evening, we have heard very sound reasons why we have a problem with affordable housing in this area. My comments ought not to be construed as being opposed to any action to fix affordable housing. There is very, very definitely a legitimate need in that respect, which warrants further attention by council. However, back some time ago, when this council made a decision to make this property available to the county, it did so based on incorrect information. The information we received was that the property was zoned RM. In fact, we find out it's zoned open space. My contention is that we would not have made this property available to the county if we had had the actual real zoning. We now are in the situation where we have passionate arguments why we should be making this property available for affordable housing. And this is not to say that those arguments are incorrect, because, as I said earlier, we do have a legitimate need for affordable housing. However, when this council makes decisions, any decision on any issue, any time, we do so based on the information we receive. Our decisions are only as good as the information that is in front of us. The information that we received was incorrect, it was inaccurate, and it's my own contention that the action we chose to take is now incorrect. And what do you do when you make an error? In my mind, you go back and try and fix it. Now, further complicating, I suppose, the issue is the fact that council back in 1978, when this development was starting, made a covenant with the owners that this would be retained as open space. And so the question in my mind is very, very simple. Did that council and does this council have integrity? Will we live with the commitment that we made? Now, is there an out cause for council? Yeah, there is. Council has certainly the ability to change the situation if it wishes. But in the course of changing it, it seems to me you sacrifice your integrity. And I don't. As one member of this council, I pride myself on my integrity. I pride myself on the fact that we honor the commitments that we've made. Otherwise, what good is our word, now or in the future? So, by way of conclusion, I'm going to request my fellow councilors to vote against this resolution so that on the heels of a denial of the resolution, assuming it receives no support, we can then move a second motion, a follow-up motion, which would send a message to county that we have withdrawn this piece of property's availability for any kind of future development. And so I'll conclude my remarks at this point. And again, I will once again reiterate, I request my fellow colleagues to vote against this resolution.
Thank you, Councillor Saunders. I would like to ask a question of our planner. In all of this discussion, as a longtime resident of this community, how did Churchill Mews ever get built if in fact that whole property was open space? That's a question that we need to ask, and I don't know the answer to that. There must have been an exemption that was given at the time to build Churchill Mews. I'm asking our planner.
Thank you very much, Deputy
She may
Mayor.
not be able to answer that question.
I do believe I do know the answer to this question. Through the different phases of the Rolling Sand subdivision, different parcels and blocks were set aside for different types of uses. So the block where Churchill Mews is was noticed or designed and planned for apartments on that block. Similarly, the second site that the town submitted to the county, the 111 Church Street, was also planned for residential buildings, singles or semi-detached there as well. So that was in the original plan.
Thank you very much for that information. Yes, Your Worship?
Well, I'm sure I'm not going to get a round of applause, but I'm going to step in anyways. The fact of the matter is the county's willing to work with the property owners on this. The fact of the matter is the county proposal is to actually put the facility closer to the existing Churchill Mews, into that corner, reducing the visibility impact to the neighbors. We don't fence our properties. We actually would look at putting trails from Church Street up to Payette Drive. We actually, and everybody's referencing the second building, it's not that is a mere reference. All the county's saying is they'll tuck the facility into a corner and actually then leave room, so sometime 10, 15, 20 years from now, if we have affordable housing needs, then the council of that day can consider that. We heard about the right-of-ways. They're not right-of-ways going down from Payette down there. They're actually water runoffs. So we're getting some misinformation here that is a little bit disturbing. But what gets me back here, I've got the floor, thank you very much. So what we've got here, though, is some misinformation going on that is impacting the decision, in my opinion. And the other thing is, council voted for this property 8-1 in favor of donating the property. And I appreciate what Councillor Saunders is saying, but the fact of the matter is, this is not the GTA. Every member of this council knows where that hill was. Every member of this council's toboggan down there, ran up there, walked up there, played up there. We knew what we were doing as a council. You know, the zoning wouldn't have impacted that decision. It was 8-1 in favor of that. So, you know, we're going down a different path here, and I appreciate that. But in terms of the covenant, generally speaking, those covenants are 40-year agreements. We're at year number 38. By the time the county did this, the council of the town today back in 1978 have fully fulfilled their obligation on that covenant. So we're in good shape that way as well. So anyway, so I'm saying we should vote in favor of the property. Thank you.
LaRue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In regards to the properties in concern, at the last meeting, I questioned why the county hadn't looked at the opposite side of Churchill Mews, which was below Lawrence Street, a property that is already, from my understanding, zoned R3, which would have been large enough to suffice for a 50-unit apartment building. And I was told that we didn't know why they didn't want it. So if we don't know why they don't want it, there are a lot of things we don't know. And the one thing I do know is that We have other properties in Penetanguishene. I'm certainly not against affordable housing, but I do believe and I do agree that the area that's being requested is not the right place.
Thank you, Councillor LaRue. Your worship.
Yeah, in terms, just for clarification, Councillor LaRue, so the other property was ranked number 9. It wasn't kicked to the curb by the county. What'll happen in this case, if we turn this down, it's not like that number 9 goes over to number 5. The city of Barrie comes up next. Thank you.
Okay, your worship, spoken twice to the issue. Are there other members of council who would like to speak? Seeing none, I will read the report again and call for the vote. Just.
Could I request a recorded vote?
You certainly can, sir. Madam Clerk, did you get that? Very good. Okay, that the town of Penetanguishene initiate a zoning bylaw amendment for the property at 161 Church Street to rezone the lands for open space zone to residential multi-density exemption zone RMX, and that the notice of the public meeting under the Planning Act be provided in accordance with the regulations issued pursuant to the Planning Act. So I will call for a recorded vote. Your Madam Clerk.
Councillor Saunders has requested a recorded vote. Councillor Saunders. Councillor Lauder.
In favor.
Councillor LaRose. Councillor Rawson.
Opposed?
Councillor Levy.
In favor.
Councillor Mayat.
Oppose?
Councillor LaRue. Deputy Mayor Dubois.
In favor.
Mayor Marshall.
In favor.
That motion is defeated.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, so we're on to the next one. You folks want to get on to the hockey game, you can, and we'll give you a second to clear. Stacy?
My apologies, Mayor Marshall. I do believe that Councillor Saunders did want to move a motion to finalize this item, and I do believe that it was option 2 within the report. Just in terms of procedurally, we have 2 dead motions on the floor, so I think he was, from what he mentioned in his comments, he was looking to pass a motion, and I just didn't want to pass by this opportunity if that was his intent.
Councillor Saunders, did you have another motion you wanted to bring forward?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And indeed, Stacy has captured the situation correctly. I want to move option 2.
I do happen to have option 2 in front of me, if you'd like me to read it for members of council. Councillor Saunders is moving option 2, being that the town of Penetanguishene withdraw the submission to the county of Simcoe for the property at 161 Church Street for potential development of affordable housing.
Seconded by Councillor. Yes, Councillor Rawson. So we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? So the motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Sad, sad,
Valuable piece of property, council.
Pass a bylaw that they have to stay to the end.
You're welcome.
Well said, right? Very well said. That's like my ministerial speech.
All right, council, we'll go on to 7A, moved by Councillor LaRose, second by Councillor Rawson, that the recommendations contained within the Committee of the Whole report related to the Transportation and Environmental Services section be approved. Does anyone wish to pull any of these items? See none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? And that is carried. Move on to 7A, Finance and Corporate Services, moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Saunders, that the recommendations contained within Committee of the Whole related to the Finance and Corporate Services section be approved. Anyone wish to pull any of these items? See none, I'll call for the vote then. All in favor? And that is carried. Moving on to agenda item 8A. Because I've seen John Grisham novels shorter than this one, but away we go. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Saunders, that the Simcoe County District School Board and Simcoe Muskoka Catholic District School Board Education Development Charges Study has been recently completed and is currently considering updated development rates across Simcoe County. And that as a result of the development charges study prepared by Watson and Associates for the two boards, there will be significant impact to the proposed development charges for the respective boards upon future development across the Simcoe County. And that combined rates for both school boards currently is $1,759 per residential unit and is proposed to increase to $5,064 per residential unit, representing an increase of 188%. And the combined gross floor area charge of 47 cents per square foot for non-residential is proposed to increase to $1.37 or $1.37 per square foot for non-residential development, representing an increase of 192%. And that the study suggests that land values have increased significantly over that time frame from 2013, when the previous study was completed, through to 2018. The study notes that land values in the 2013 study suggest a Simcoe County, South Simcoe, Barrie and Bradford, West Gwillimbury average of $305,000 to $430,000 per acre, to 2018 levels of $900,000 to $1.5 million per acre, reflecting increases ranging from 184% to 275%. And further, that land values in Penetanguishene and North Simcoe have not increased at the same levels as noted in the study, and that the study fails to recognize the uniqueness of the open real estate market and growth projections in North Simcoe and specifically Penetanguishene. Now, therefore, Penetanguishene Council hereby requests that the respective school boards consider a differential development rate, area-specific rate that more appropriately reflects both the growth projections and the actual real estate values. And no, I'm not reading that again. So, Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Oh, sorry, there's a part two here.
Yes,
So.
there's a part two.
For
Yes.
North Simcoe, which would not negatively impact the future residential and non-residential development within Penetanguishene and North Simcoe. Thanks. Over to Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Yes, Your Worship, we gallantly fought this battle many moons ago, spent a great deal of money trying to convince the school boards of the day that exactly what is in this report, that there's a big difference in what's going on in the south end of Simcoe County versus what's happening in the north end. I certainly applaud that we send a letter and try to make a difference. These increases are unbelievable. To go from approximately $1,759 to $5,000 is a big jump and will create a terrible hardship on people who are trying to move into a home, because it does add a cost for sure, because it's the homeowner that ultimately will pay that amount of money. So I fully support what is before us. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments? Councillor Levy, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Your Worship. I'm very pleased to see this added to our agenda. Came to my attention late last week, and not only that, but it also came to my attention that the school boards wanted to have a joint meeting with stakeholders, but they forgot to invite any of us. So I'm absolutely appalled at not only the numbers, but the way this has come to us. I'm certainly pleased that the CAO was able to act on this quickly and bring it to our attention. And when you, the most important number for me is the first set of numbers here were for a residential unit, going up from $659 per residential unit, proposed increase to $5,064. That's just absolutely bizarre. And given the land values here versus those in Innisfil, for instance, it's just not manageable for, and will harm our future growth.
Councillor Lauder.
Thank you, Your Worship. I love your description, Councillor Levy. My first words were appalled. I'm appalled by the presented documentation, especially when it considers the actual real estate values, specifically in high valued and developing areas such as Barrie and Bradford, West Gwillimbury. The increased land value certainly does not mean more students and greater needs for them individually. So I'm just having a really tough time with high real estate values translating into, especially of those regions, translating into high educational costs for us here in the town of Penetanguishene. So especially, I'm reflecting on both the growth projections and the real estate values. Those are the critical concepts that are being presented here. So I thank you for bringing this forward, and I am going to fully vote in favor.
Any other comments, questions? Councillor LaRose, then Councillor Saunders, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wonder if we should get some other people on board. Should we be sending this through to Midland and Tiny and Tay and Springwater, making sure that our MP and our MPPs get this? This is outrageous, you know. For them to come and say this, especially to our town where they've ripped out our high school, is just disgusting.
So are you moving amendments so further and that the other municipalities be notified? And a seconder to put that, I think that, council accept that as a friendly amendment. I think it's pretty friendly myself. So we'll just accept that. Yeah, okay, good. Councillor Saunders is next, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Having been on the other side of this equation back a number of years ago, the primary reason why school boards went with one development charge was for ease of administration, their ease of administration. I support this resolution absolutely, completely. I think it's certainly long overdue to have a differential in the development charge, and the rationale has been expressed very, very nicely around the table.
Thank you very much. Any final comments? Sorry, CEO.
Just one piece that I don't believe is captured in either of the two attachments or the motion. It's been brought to our attention that the suggestion is over the next 15 years, there's going to be 57 new builds in this jurisdiction that both school boards are covering, and one of which is encompassed in North Simcoe. So I thought that was pertinent information for council to know. And relative to Councillor LaRose's suggestion, I think that's a good suggestion. Definitely Midland has already passed a very similar motion. Tay will be or already has, and my understanding is Tiny will be as well. But I do concur sending it to our MP and MPPs. You know, I think we'll certainly, providing council gives us a latitude, we're happy to share that as best as we can with those critical individuals.
I think, yeah, I'd go beyond Tay, though. I'd actually go to Severn, I'd go to Oromodonte, I'd go to Ramera, City of Orillia. Like, let's get north of Barrie. I think we need to have that voice. Because I can tell you land values in Ramera is about $55,000 an acre, not $1.5 million, so it's quite significant. Anyways, I can get my soapbox on this one, and I won't. Any other final comments before I call for the vote? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to 11A. Moved by Councillor Saunders, seconded by the Deputy Mayor, that the Council of the Town of Penetanguishene introduce the following bylaws: 2018, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, and 33, and that these bylaws be read a first time, deemed to be read a second time, a third time, and carried. Any member of council have any comments on any or wish to pull any of these bylaws? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote then. All in favor? And that is carried. Moving on to question period from the media and public. Andrew, any questions? No. Does any member of the public have any questions? There's only a handful left. Brian, questions? Yes. Yes, that'll be at the start of the committee of the whole, probably in about 5 or 6 minutes. Okay, thank you. Okay, and then on to announcements and inquiries. Councillor Saunders.
Thank you, Worship. I was contacted by Ken Cowan, the owner of Captain Ken's Restaurant, tonight. And if you don't know, he had a bit of an issue with part of the wall of his restaurant falling in. And he asked me to specifically pass on to our staff and to our building inspector his thanks and his compliments about their help, their support, and their willingness to work with him in confronting that issue. So Brian, if you wouldn't mind passing that on to your people. He was very, very complimentary about how he was treated. Secondly, at the last council meeting, you appointed me to represent you in terms of identifying new hospital board members, and I participated in that process, and they have identified some, what I feel are very outstanding people. I appreciated your confidence in me.
Thank you for that. Councillor Rawson.
Thank you, Worship. Just an inquiry to our CEO. There's been comments about increased traffic down Peel Street and around Burkeville School, and I'm just wondering if there's any plans to look into that and what we can do to help alleviate that situation.
And I heard Fox Street as well, if I could throw that in. CEO?
Through your worship, thank you, Councillor Rawson. As recent as just this afternoon, staff have had conversations about this. Brian, through Public Works, will be having a conversation with our contractor to inquire about getting additional signage placed on the hot spots, I'm going to call them. In addition to the additional signage, we have requested and brought to the attention of the OPP the fact that we have received these complaints. I will be mentioning it to our detachment commander as well over the coming days in hopes that perhaps they can maybe do some additional focused patrols in the area. So I think from the perspective of addressing it, hopefully additional signage. The other thing that Brian has suggested he's going to do is move our traveling speed sign, which is currently, I believe, on Levi Simon Trail, and I'm kind of looking to our Director of Public Works. It's currently on Levi Simon Trail, so we will be moving it over to the hot spot, I'm going to call it, or the most recent hot spot. So I think we're in good hands through Brian and his staff, and that those are the solutions that we're working on with our contractor.
So maybe I could ask, I know we're sending out our weekly updates, could we actually include some of that information, Brian, in this week's update, please? Councillor Lauder and then Councillor Levy.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to bring forth the invitation. Tuesday, May 1st from 6:30 to 7:30 here in Council Chambers. We'll be hosting an open house for our backyard chickens. This is being advertised on our social media, and it's also being advertised on our newspaper. We'll also have a survey. Survey Monkey will be available, links through both of the items above. Once again, it'll be an open house. Sorry, it'll be there won't be a presentation directly, but there will be a literature and documentation and staff here to discuss and to talk about the venue, and then a report will be coming forward to council. Further on to that, the Wednesday following, so this will be 2 weeks tonight, May the 9th, both at 7 o'clock and prior to our next council meeting, we'll be holding public meetings for, once again, the actual public meeting for the backyard chickens, and also a public meeting for secondary units. We will once again be advertising through our social media and also our newspaper and whatnot. So please come out, join in. Lots of conversation from our residents is greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Levy?
I just wanted to briefly comment that the sign on Levi Simon Trail, Brian, the sign on Levi Simon isn't working. It's set at 51. I assure you I don't boot down Levi Simon at 51.
So you're not trying to get to the high score? You've got that noted, Brian?
Yeah, we've actually, it's our first installation of the sign. We actually had the solar panel angled the wrong way, so we've adjusted that, so it should be working fine now.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a reminder, Sustainable Severn Sound is having another movie, Earth Week, and it is to take place at Wybridge Community Center in Wybridge, and it's called Just Eat It. I did attend the movie that was on at the library last week. It was called Before the Flood. I thought, wow, it's really enlightening to see these movies and what our future is going to look like. So if anybody's got time, I think it would be very valuable to pop in, and it's about an hour and a half. And they serve coffee and a few goodies, so that's sometimes an incentive. Thank you.
Councillor LaRue.
Thank you, Your Worship. On a sadder note, on a sadder note, wish to announce that the Maitre D is now closed.
I saw that notice as well. Any other inquiries? Because I got one myself. So mine is related to the public notice in terms of why council denied Queen's Court. And so in the public notice for both the refusal of zoning and the refusal of the subdivision, it was referenced, and Jeff, you signed this, the CEO signed this, that it was denied due to town official plan and provincial policies. But that, in fact, wasn't the case. The only time the provincial policies were mentioned was in our very first meeting, March the 14th, and it was mentioned by Councillor Lauder, LaRue, and Levy. The town official plan was never mentioned. We've had 4 motions on this. The town official plan was never mentioned in one of those 4 motions. The provincial policy was only mentioned in March 14th. Never mentioned again the next 3 times it came up. In terms of the motion to deny, no member of council spoke on the motion to deny, with the exception of myself, who said, don't do that. I spoke against the denying it. So it's not staff's place, I'm concerned. So A, it's not staff's place to speculate on council's decision. What would have been an accurate statement, in my opinion, on that was council did not provide clarification to staff on why that was denied, because none of the motions did. And, so I'd like to have an explanation of that, because I think, we're going down the path of UMB, and we're starting off with a left-footed argument, because the council, we didn't clearly tell staff why we denied that. So there was no clarity, and staff speculated, and I think that speculation is problematic.
Through your worship, I'll ask Andrea to initially kick it off, and then I'll fill in any gaps.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I'll try and do my best to answer how the notice was prepared. So, the council did have many discussions about this, and there were various concerns or issues that the council did noted with respect to the proposal. Although not specifically did council say that it was a certain section of the policies or a certain provision of our own official plan, there were a number of comments generally about traffic density, loss of woodlands, impacts to groundwater recharge area. So in keeping of that general comments and the concerns that were raised by council, the notice of the refusal did include that broad statement about not being in conformity with the provincial plans and the town's official plan. So that is how we were drafted. It is very, very general. It's very, very broad-based, but I think a lot of the comments and concerns that council identified were also very broad as well. So I've noted that I will need some more direction in the future from council when decisions are made. It's especially important now with the new changes to the LPAT that we be clear in identifying where we're not consistent with or conforming to different plans. So it's been duly noted.
Well, I get it's duly noted, but it's problematic, because as much as I appreciate your statement, only 3 members of council spoke to it, not 9, not the majority, 3, one time at one motion on the 13th. The statements probably would have been fairer to say the council denied it based on public interest, because I was voting in favor of it to have further consultation, because I thought that was in the best public interest. I would argue that those who voted to deny thought that was in the best public interest, but clearly council did not utilize either one of these 2 terms. And so my question now is that a legal problem for us as we go into the OMB? Because, we're public meetings, so, what I saw in those tapes, the developer saw in those tapes.
Through your worship, Andrea did a good job of articulating how staff have come to the wording in that notice. I guess just I'll fill in a couple gaps and then I'll answer the question. The other piece I'd like to add is we did have a number of conversations with other planning policy experts in terms of how we derived that wording based on what we believe to be the situation at a staff level. In terms of answering the question, we don't believe that it creates any hardship for the municipality moving forward through the OMB or LPAT process.
Thank you very much. Any other inquiries? Seeing none, I'll move into 14A, which is a confirmation bylaw. So it's moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Saunders, that the confirmation bylaw 2018-34 be signed and sealed by the Mayor and Clerk. All in favor of that motion? And that is carried. And a motion to adjourn at 8:26. Councillor Rawson, Councillor LaRue, all in favor of that? Good. So we'll adjourn till 8:30, folks. If you can stretch your legs and then come back. All right, council, I'll call us to order at 8:25, or 8:34 rather, sorry. So I need a mover and seconder to get the committee of the whole agenda onto the floor. Moved by Councillor Ross and second by Councillor Lauder. Any questions, comments, or on the agenda? I do think, Councillor Leroux, you wanted to add something, an announcement at the end. With council's permission, Councillor Leroux missed announcing the other one, so we'll just do that at the end, so if somebody can remind me. With that slight adjustment, all in favor? That is carried. Moving on to declaration of pecuniary interest. Does any member of council have a pecuniary interest in any of the items in front of us? Seeing none, then I'll move on to presentations and delegations. And we've got David Parks here from the County of Simcoe regarding our transit system and implementation update. And David, I know you're a hockey fan, so we're giving you 1 minute, so go quick. No, I'm teasing. Go ahead, David. Welcome.
Yes. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, your worship, members of council, staff, and members of the public. It's great to be here today. Thank you for the invitation to provide you with an update on the county transit system. What I'd like to do I have the key here? Am I allowed to? Is that how it works?
Please. Yep. You're driving the bus,
right.
literally.
I just want to make sure that I'm allowed to do that. Okay. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Okay, thank you. I'm going to give you an overview of the presentation. We're going to look at the Simcoe County Transit overview, the technology project overview, communication strategy, customer service strategy, infrastructure requirements, fare structure, and next steps. Certainly, I can tell you, gone are the days where you can just throw a bus on, as your public works superintendent knows, with the changes with AOAD and different types of technology requirements. It's certainly an interesting challenge to get buses on the road, particularly when there's almost a year and a half wait just to order a bus these days. So the County of Simcoe undertook a transportation master plan a number of years ago, and part of that program, what came out very loud and clear was members of the public during our public consultation process was that there certainly seems to be a change in attitude towards looking at the alternative of transit, and for many reasons that is demographics, also car insurance, just mobilities for seniors and for kids. Everybody seems to want to travel a little bit more, stay home, go to school, whether it's in Barrie, whether it's in Orillia at the university, whether it's to get to the hospital. Mobility is a big issue now, and cars are getting a little bit more expensive, and a lot of people can't drive and can't afford to drive. So it really came out loud and clear that that we need to look at providing a transportation system, a regional transportation system for the County of Simcoe. So what I'll briefly do is give you what the target dates we have. I'll give you an overview of the buses and our operation and maintenance contract and our public transportation infrastructure funding program. So our target dates are, we're hope to have a soft launch starting on August 7th. And the soft launch is, we're going to initiate a contract in this month. And obviously, when it's a new bus system, just like any other bus system, you want to sort of get the bugs out. You want to sort of begin the operation on a schedule. What we're proposing is to operate the conventional bus service on the hourly service for free for the month, to train the drivers, to get people to used to it, and then do a formal launch the day after Labor Day on September 4th. So what we have done, we've ordered four Vicinity buses, 30-foot buses. They're going to be delivered. Right now they're in Vancouver, getting prepped right now, and we hope to take delivery of those in the very near future. They are 25-seat bus, low floor, fully accessible. They can accommodate 2 wheelchairs and other mobility devices on the bus. Both the front door and the back door have ramps. It's a kneeling bus. We also have ordered 2 specialized Dodge ProMaster buses. They'll be delivered in June of 2018. They hold 7 people, and they can accommodate 3 wheelchairs. As you may know, we have to, when you operate a conventional bus service, you're required under the provisions of Ontario. The AOAD requirements is you have to have a specialized bus service that parallels the existing bus route. So that's what the buses look like. They're a conventional 30-foot bus. As I indicate, the floor is kneel, and they do have ramps that come out. We've branded them. We're gonna call the county system the Simcoe County Links system, so it links you everywhere. We've done the branding, so we'll have branded bus, so hopefully it'll be highly visible. And this is the Dodge ProMaster bus. For specialized needs bus that we will have. We'll have 2 of those operating. So the operational contract is closed. We anticipate to award this probably this week. And then I can't really announce who the winner is at this point in time, but we have worked out the last details with our legal department, and that will be announced shortly. We are still waiting our funding from the public transportation funding program. So the first route will be Penetang, Midland to Georgian College and RVH via Elmvale. We'll also stop in Wybridge and Waverly and Elmvale, and also Midhurst on our way to Georgian College and to Royal Victoria Hospital. Royal Victoria Hospital will be our termination point. If people want to move on from Barrie, there are 5 bus routes that terminate at the hospital, so they'll be able to get on a different bus if they need to go to an alternate location in Barrie. So there's our route map. As you can see, we indicated we're gonna come down and go right down past Wybridge to Waverly, Churn, and then come right down through Elmvale, straight through. Then down to Midhurst. We're going to go across St. Vincent Street. We're going to go zigzag a little bit to St. Vincent and go straight down, and then right to Georgian College and to the hospital. So it's a very efficient, effective route. We propose hourly service. Our data shows that kids want to get to school and people want to get to the hospital right away, so it's a fairly direct route, but it also provides opportunity for other people to connect in both a number of communities on the way through our bus route. We'll have stops in, of course, Penetang. We'll coordinate with your existing bus service, and as well as Midland, and then onward. In the future, our transit system map for the first phase is for 5 routes. The second route is going to be from Collingwood, Wasaga Beach, Stayner to Barrie. The third route, which is actually probably going to be our next route that we're going to do, is from Barrie, Oro-Medonte to Orillia. And then the fourth route is going to be basically the Alliston area through Bond Head down to Bradford to the GO station. And the fifth route will be Midland Penetang through Victoria Harbour, Wabashine, Coldwater to Barrie. Or to Orillia, excuse me. So on the buses, we're going to have automatic vehicle locators, and the reason we're going to have that is for security purposes, but also for an app. So I think one of the biggest challenges for a person waiting for a regional bus is on a cold winter day, is my bus on time? Where is the bus? Did I miss it? Now, that's half the anxiety. So we're going to have an app, which is the same Ontario app, is used by most transit systems in Ontario. It's a free app, and you'll be able to see, you'll plug in the bus route, the system, and you can save that, and then you'll be able to go online to say, oh, geez, the bus, I'm in Elmvale, it's still in Waverly, I haven't missed it. It's going to be, and it will give you an arrival time. It also is a fairly slick system. If you're in Penetang and it will plot, how do I get from Penetang to Toronto on it by transit? We'll say get on the Penetang bus, then transfer to the county bus, then transfer the Barrie bus to the GO station and onwards, and it will plot it out. That's the app, and it's used by Metro Toronto, York Region, and most other systems in Ontario. So we're looking at that. We'll have an automatic passenger counter. We'll have closed circuit television, which is becoming standard for most buses now for security purposes. It will be not for just internal but external system to ensure the health and safety of the citizens that are on the bus and any issues that occur. We're going to have the same electronic fare box system as Midland and Penetang, which is transit fare. So there'll be a fare integration as we will move forward with the fare integration system. I was talking to Brian and indicated that I'll be providing some information on a proposal that we have. Obviously, it has to come through to council, what we're proposing to do. We'll also have a two-way communication system to ensure that, if there's something lost on a bus, kids get left on the bus or purses and everything else, they'll be able to communicate if there's any accidents. So there's or any issues from security on the bus, there'll always be known that they can communicate directly with someone at our bus company. So our communication strategy is we have a branding we're going to call it Simcoe County Links. The mobility will be called Simcoe Links Plus. Again, we'll have the transit app. We'll have a web page. The web page will provide all the questions and answers and information that you need. What time is the bus start? What's the schedule? How do I get the app? What's it cost? You'll be able to get applications for specialized bus service as well. There'll be maps. What we'll do is we'll have again a branded sign and branded shelters as we move forward, and we'll begin with some marketing and advertising, because we certainly want to let people know what we're doing and how we're doing it, and encourage the ridership. Our customer service strategy, we want to be able to make sure our customer service staff be able to provide general information when you phone in, or direct you to a web page, or be able to supply you with the information you need. We'll have our customer service individuals will be able to provide the applications for specialized service. As you know, they have to be, there's an application process which has to be signed by your family physician or a physician to ensure that you have a mobility issue. That's between the patient and the doctor. We don't question it. He has a standard form he has to fill out, and we don't question it, but you do have to, under the provisions of the AOED, you do have to have your doctor sign it to verify that you do have a mobility issue, and then we'll provide the service. We'll also have the customer service will provide fare information to you. We'll also deal with complaints. You always will get a little bit of complaints. The bus wasn't on time. He splashed me. He was rude. Hopefully that won't happen. But we do have to have a system in place to ensure that those items can be addressed. Well, also, people will lose their cell phones and purses and wallets. So we'll need to have a program ensure that we can safely return those items. And there might be the odd lost child as well. We hope not. Our infrastructure requirements, obviously, we're working with both the town of Midland and the town of Penetanguishene to establish our stops, and looking at potential bus shelters if required. We're certainly going to look at the appropriate signage. Certainly what we're looking for is some hope, or some, some support for maintenance. We want to use the shared bus stops. So obviously the county doesn't have any staff that would go out and shovel bus stops that are located in the local municipality. So we're hoping that we can coordinate some in-kind services. Our fare structure, we're again, I'm going to be providing Brian with a copy of that, what we're doing. We want to make sure that we have a fair and equitable system, so we're proposing zones. Obviously, we don't want someone paying the same fare when they start in Midland Penetanguishene as they do in Emvale, or if they start in Midhurst to get to Barrie and to the college. So we want to make sure we have a fair and equitable, it's based on distance traveled. We want to have an adult rate, a student and seniors rate, and we want to establish easy passes with a tap card, and we also will have cash. So what council's authorized, it has a $7 fee, and it was from Midland to RVH and Georgian College. So what we're determining is there will be a $5 from basically from Emvale to Midland, or Emvale to Barrie. And there would be a $3 fee if you're leaving Penetanguishene, Midland, and you wanted to go to Wybridge or Waverley, or vice versa. We propose that there will be discounts of $1 for the fares, the fares that we establish for seniors and youth, and we hope to have a discount for smart cards as well. Because the more we can eliminate cash, the quicker and easier it is for staff there's a lot of money and time involved in cash handling. So if we can use smart cards, that just saves time and money and efficiency. So over the next 10 years, we'll certainly look at other opportunities that exist as the county grows. And we've just sort of done some mapping on where this might be and how it may occur. And certainly there will be some work done in the southern part of our county, particularly with their establishing a brand new GO station in Innisfil, which is going to be a commuter station. And as you know, within the next 4 to 5 years, there'll be hourly and half-hour services to Toronto. So we're sure that there will be a need to get to the GO stations both in Barrie and Innisfil over the long term, and in Bradford. Thank you very much, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, David. Any questions for David on this one? Councillor LaRue. Oh, your microphone, Doug?
I happen to chair the seniors committee here in Penetanguishene, and they've been waiting for this a long time. So what link would they go on to get all this information?
I believe we have Don Gordon, one of our individuals, will be going to your seniors group here in Penetanguishene, I think next week. Okay, so I know that I know he's doing that, and he'll be providing information. We are just getting our webpage up. It will probably be, we're hoping to get that launched in the beginning and the next few weeks. It's not available right now because the system's really not starting, but we hope to get a very skeleton of it, announcing the dates, the times, and some general information.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you very much. Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, Dave, for coming this evening. I think we've been working on this project for, I think, a couple of years, so I'm glad to see it come full circle. I think it will be readily used. I know when we started our system, we have about 2,000 riders a month, which for us, I think that's great. And I'm sure that it'll be very convenient for people, especially to get to the hospital in Barrie. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. And I think, David, when we get the link to Aurelia, what it opens up is the high school graduates here all of a sudden who don't have transportation actually get to Lakehead University, Georgian College in Aurelia, and also Georgian College in Barrie. So I like it very much. And I guess the other thing, you didn't articulate it, but this is not a milk run, right? So this is
Right,
we should actually call this Rapid Links.
Yes, well, that's one of our. It's a regional service. It's quick. It's not a milk run. It's very direct. We don't anticipate. We want to be able to say we're stopping in Wyvale and Waverley. We know we won't have a lot of customers there, but again, people may be able to drop people off and again provide the connecting links. Elmville, we certainly feel there will be. Certainly, Midland Penetanguishene is going to be the bulk, and will be the feeder to it. But we want to make sure that we get as many customers in a very effective and efficient way.
Thank you very much, Councillor Saunders.
Just a quick question. Did I hear you accurately that the terminus at the other end in Barrie is going to be at the hospital in Georgian College?
It's going to be at the hospital, and we're going to terminate both at the hospital and Georgian College. We're going to go to Georgian College, then the hospital, then back.
Is there some reason you're not going downtown to hook into the GO system? We have people up here who also would like to go all the way down to Toronto.
Yeah.
And if you're going to drop them off up at the hospital or Georgian College, that's not convenient to hook into transit to Toronto.
Well, this route in our studies indicated that the majority of the people are going to at this time to the hospital and the college. One of the things that we have from our license perspective is we got to be careful when we enter the city of Barrie where we can pick up and drop off customers. We can only drop off customers, and we can't. And so Barrie kind of wants to have other extra customers. So at this point, we're still in negotiations with Barrie how to get people to the GO station. We certainly think two of the routes will go directly to the GO station in the south. The Collingwood route will go there, and there's an opportunity for those people to transfer at Midhurst to get onto that Collingwood bus and go directly down Bayfield to the GO station. So we're starting the spider web of our system, and we have to coordinate that.
I assume you're going to evolve in perhaps unseen directions?
Yes, we are, and it's very organic. We're playing with routes. We've had multiple information. Some of the surveys have said, we want to get to Barrie as fast as we can. Go right down 93, bypass Mvale, just go right to the hospital, right to the college. That's where we want to get as quickly as possible. And of course, we had to balance that with our other municipal partners saying, well, why don't you come down and go right through Mvale? It's a fairly significant, we have seniors there, we have people that need to get to hospital. So it is a bit of balance for the region. We want to be quick and fast, but at the same time, we want to provide a maximum service to the residents of the county.
Thank you. Any other questions for David? And we'll let you get back to the hockey game. Thanks so much. Dave's a big hockey fan, so this was a sacrifice, David. We appreciate it. Moving on to agenda item 5A, Transportation and Environmental Services. And I'll turn the chair over to Councillor Rawson, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. 5A is our consent agenda. It's recommended the following consent agenda items have been given due consideration be received for information. We have one item, the Midland Pantangashine Transit Ridership Monthly Update. Does any member wish to pose for further discussion? Seeing none, a mover, Councillor Roux. Seconder, Mayor Marshall will call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. B's matters for consideration. Number 1 is Septage Hauled Waste EA Update. It's recommended that council proceed with option 1 as outlined within the staff report. A mover? Councillor Rowe. Seconder, Councillor Matt. Brian, if you can give us a quick update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The report in front of council tonight is an update on our Septage and Hauled Waste EA. The last report or update report I gave council, the county was just having a feasibility study on Septage and Hauled Waste. They have now completed that. Their findings indicated that they would like to monitor the province's review of the Septage and Hauled Waste land application policy, which is currently underway. And our position from a Public Works perspective is that we would also like to see what the results of that provincial review before making any recommendations on a decision.
Thank you, Brian. Any members have any questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Number 2 is a verbal update from the Director of Public Works regarding the Main Street reconstruction. Thanks for putting this on the agenda, Clerk. Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're just approaching the completion of our third week of construction on the Main Street. We're making good progress. Our contractor has about to commission the temporary water system from Wolf Street to Water Street, which is the first phase of the project. We're now completed testing of that temporary water system, and if everything goes well, we'll have it up and running by early next week. And the contractor has also completed the sanitary servicing on the STP laneway, basically from the STP at the Main Street to Main Street, and they're now working their way north to Wolf Street for the sanitary sewer installation work that they're doing there. They also have the sanitary bypass in place to bypass sanitary flows around the work site as well. We've had some good communication with our contractor. They've been responding very well to a lot of some of the inquiries from the public and some of the complaints that have come in. They've been very responsive in that respect. So it's been a very good working relationship there. We have had a couple of weather delay days, today being one of them, and last week when we had the snow. But we are confident we can overcome those delays, and we're fairly early days in the project. So we have given the contractor a lot of leeway in terms of making up time. So there's no concerns there. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, Brian. Any member have any questions for Brian on this? Councillor Lauder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Brian, I'd just like to extend some great kudos to you and our staff, but also to the JB Enterprises, because I did travel last Friday. I traveled through the businesses in the affected area, directly affected, and I talked to at least 5 businesses, and they all had just tremendous things to say, especially about, you mentioned the communications. JB Enterprises are communicating very well with the businesses and talking to them, making sure everything was as close as possible to perfect. The only business that was not under play yet, so I stopped, I talked to them, had a few comments, went to JB Enterprises, said, yep, those are the things we'll be talking about next week as they become affected. So everything's going great. From business perspective, you're talking from the building perspective. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Lauder. Any other members have any further comments or questions on Main Street reconstruction project? Very good, thank you, Brian. Moving on to C is referrals to upcoming agendas and staff. Do any members have any revisions, additions, or deletions? Mayor Marshall.
I think we delete the Main Street reconstruction update. I think we got that pretty anchored.
Yeah, I would agree. It's a standing item. Any other members have any further items? Okay. Yep.
Sorry, just for clarity, I heard remove it, and then I heard it's a standing item. Do I have a consensus of council?
I think what Mayor Marshall is saying, we don't need it on the referrals because it is a standing item.
Okay, thank you.
Any other members have any revisions? The motion is that the Transportation Environmental Services section endorse the following additional and existing referrals to upcoming agendas and staff. A mover, Councilor LaRue. Seconder, Councilor Lauder. Call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Question period from the media and public. Seeing none, back to you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. We'll go to Section B, Recreation and Community Services. Councilor LaRue, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Section B, Recreation Community Service Consent Agenda, we have none. Matters for consideration, we have none. And referrals of upcoming agenda, are there any additions or deletions to? There being none, Recreation Community Service section endorse following additional and existing referrals to upcoming agendas. A mover, Councilor Rawson, seconder, or Deputy Mayor. All in favor? Thank you. Question period from the media. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you very much. Before I move on, though, Recreation had a light agenda here tonight, but maybe that's partly because we had a rec director, Sherry Desjardins, running the Boston Marathon. So isn't that impressive? Sherry, well done. That's a memory to be treasured forever, so good for you. Congratulations. So moving on to agenda item number 7, Section C, Planning and Community Development Services, and I'll turn the chair over to Councillor Levy, please.
Got it. Starting with the consent agenda, recommended action that the following consent agenda items have been given due consideration be received for information. Do I have a mover? Councillor Rawson, seconded by Deputy Mayor. And does anyone want any of these pulled? No, seeing none. All in favor? And carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to matters for consideration. Request for draft plan extension Pen Sub 2014-01, Maxon Building Corporation, Phase 2, 519 Murray Road, Staff Report PD 1834. Recommended action that the 3-year extension, that a 3-year extension be granted to the draft plan of subdivision approval pursuant to Section 51 of the Planning Act to June 24th, 2021 for the Maxim Building Corporation subdivision at 519 Murray Road, file number Pen Sub 2014-01. This is the final phase of the Maxim subdivision, and they are requesting a extension to see that fully built out. Any questions of the planning director? Seeing none. Oh, I need a mover. Did I get a mover? Okay, Councillor LaRose, seconded by Councillor Lauder. No discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. We have another request for extension of the draft plan of condominium approval for 2 Beck Boulevard, owner 859530 Ontario Inc., staff report PD 1833. Recommended action that a 3-year extension be granted to the draft plan of condominium approval pursuant to Section 5133 of the Planning Act to June 4th, 2021 for the property at 2 Beck Boulevard, file number Pen Sub 2006-01. This one has been in our file for quite some time, but apparently now the owners are looking for an extension to consider developing the final building in the condominium development adjacent to the town dock. Do I have a mover? Councillor Rawson, seconded by Councillor LaRue. Any questions of the planner? Yes, Councillor LaRose.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one question. For this item and the previous item, is that eating up much of our capacity at the sewage treatment plant and at the water department?
I'll let the planner or the director of, one of the directors will speak to that. I'll leave it up to them. But the answer is no.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, and through to Councillor LaRose, given the number of units for each of these developments, it's very minor.
I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? And carried. Thank you very much. Moving on, appeal of decision for the Queen's Court subdivision and zoning bylaw amendment, staff report PD 1832. Recommended action that the town of Penetanguishene retain the legal services of Ed Veldblum of Russell Christie LLP for the purposes of defending the appeal of the refusal of the Queen's Court subdivision file number Pen Sub 2013-01 and associated zoning bylaw amendment file number ZA8-2015, and that the town of Penetanguishene send a land use planner, director of planning and community development, engineer, director of public works, hydrologist to be retained, and an ecologist to be retained as expert witnesses to represent the municipality at the appeal, and further that the 2018 related expenses be funded from the town's legal reserve, and finally that funding considerations for the 2019 related expenses be included in the 2019 operating budget process. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Louder, did you move that? Oh, Councillor Mayette, and seconded by Councillor Louder. Any questions or discussion? Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. I like the motion. Sorry, I like the motion except for the very in final that it's my belief that this council made this decision, and it's a $300,000 decision, and it should be in the 2018 budget. So we need to find a way to fund it out of this year. This council made that decision. It would be totally unfair to burden the 2019 council with a $300,000 decision by this council. What'll happen next year? We'll end up cutting out roads or services or some other thing that will force them into a 3.5%. I think it's a 3.41% tax increase to start 2019. So when I look at the budget here in front of us today, if we actually decided to cover that whole $300,000 in this year's budget, the overall tax rate for the town of Penetanguishene, we're all said and done, county of Simcoe in, OPP, so town, OPP, county education would be just a little over 0.5%. So to me, it would be irresponsible for us to pass this burden on to those council members who will join us in the upcoming council term. And this council made this decision. This council needs to live with that decision, and live with that decision going into the election, live with that decision in this term of council. Thank you. I'm actually looking for a seconder for that. Sorry very much.
Okay. Procedurally here, are we discussing the first motion?
Just for clarity, Mayor Marshall is moving an amendment to the motion to where it says that the funding considerations be allocated to the 2018.
I can read it for you, Stacey, if you want to capture it.
That would be great.
So what I'm saying is, and finally, that funding of the expenses be included in the 2018 operating budget in the amount of $300,000.
So, Madam Chair, then the motion would be voted on for the amendment, and then carry on for the main motion.
Okay. So we'll have some discussion on that, starting with Councillor LaRose.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Do we know if this is actually going to have any actionable work done on it during 2018? Like, is there a lineup to get into the OMB? Does it take 4 months to get there? Does it take 6 months to build a case? Or do you jump in the car and go down and do it next Tuesday?
Thank you very much. We'll direct that to the Director of Planning.
Thank you very much. Through you, Councillor Levy, to Councillor LaRose. So in my experience and from what I've heard from talking to my colleagues, the OMB's backlog of applications or files to be heard is quite substantial. I heard from county staff back in about 3 weeks ago that an appeal that they had just got a hearing date of June of 2019. So the fact that they'd already had an appeal in front of the board and that was the hearing date that was set leads me to believe that we're looking at a late 2019 for the actual hearing. But obviously, leading up to that hearing, there's some work that will need to be done moving forward. So such things as retaining the expert witnesses, preparing the documents, getting legal advice on some things. There will be some expenses that will be incurred this year. With this motion, what we're hoping for is once we retain some legal counsel, we'll have some more clarity and direction as to how much work will need to be done this year and how much work would be next year.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Councillor Rossin.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I have some comments, but I'm a little conflicted. We spoke about this, about another issue, selection of a solicitor, and we spoke it in camera. And some of the comments I'd like to bring up conflict that. So I think what I want to say, I think I need to say in camera. If I can move a motion to speak to that.
I'll second that.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, do we have an opportunity to go in camera?
We certainly do, but we do have an amendment to the motion on the floor that's been moved. I think it makes sense unless Councillor Rossin feels that impacts his decision in terms of that amendment, in which case I would leave it to the chair to make the call. But in normal procedure, we would continue. But I think if this is going to impact Councillor Rossin's decision on the amendment, then it would be prudent to have the discussion in camera.
Thank you very much. I would look to council to get some idea if going in camera now before we deal with the amendment would be appropriate.
I support Mayor Marshall's amendment, but I just need clarification with fairness to what we discussed previously.
So we will go in camera and have a discussion of what is concerning Councillor Rossin that he doesn't think is appropriate for open discussion, and then we can come back. Yes.
Again, procedurally, just to ensure transparency, this will require to go into camera. I think that the 2/3 of council to take the decision to waive the rules. We haven't, provided notice that we'd be going into camera today. So if you wouldn't mind calling for that, it looks as though council's in agreement, but just for procedure and for the minutes, that would be appreciated.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Rossin and seconded by Mayor Marshall. All those in favor, carried. So we will adjourn and go in camera. Thank you very much. We are returning from our in-camera meeting, and Madam Clerk, do you have a motion for us pertaining to that meeting?
I think that what procedurally would make the most sense is for us to continue down the amendment that Mayor Marshall moved, as well as maybe include the further details that were discussed. I can sort of craft that, kind of mixing the two of them together, if that's what you would like.
Okay.
No, Mayor Marshall is not saying that.
Sorry, yeah, because we've got a motion on the floor duly moved and seconded with an amendment, so I think we have to deal with this amendment that I moved and somebody seconded, I think Councillor Rawson. And then once that goes, then we get back to the main motion, then somebody can amend that based on our in-camera conversation.
Okay, so we will pick up where we left off. We have a motion on the floor duly moved and seconded that read it.
I can read it again because we're gone for a bit. And so it's just the very final paragraph. And finally, that funding of the expenses be included in the 2018 operating budget in the amount of $300,000.
Thank you very much. Discussion.
Question, if I may. What would happen, or what will happen, if someone can answer me, the CAO or the mayor, what happens to the written submissions from the Preserve and Protect and the list of over 800 objections that were received?
See it, Mr. CEO? Oh,
Sorry, I will field that call, that question. I apologize. So everyone who did submit comments, written or were presented orally, were circulated notice of the decision of council. Once an appeal is filed and we send that information off to the board will have that list of all the contact information of those who submitted, and they will be notified of the appeal, and they will be explained sort of, or given the process as to how they could become participants and or parties to the appeal. So that information will flow from the board once they receive the appeal.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Any other questions at the moment? I would just like to ask a question of the treasurer and anyone else who might want to answer. Do we have any contingencies anywhere or reserves that could be applied to this endeavor? Sorry to put you on the spot there, but...
That's okay. Through you, Madam Chair. Anticipating that there would be some expenses in 2018 with future expenses in 2019, I did advise the Director of Planning in her report that there was approximately $26,000 in our legal reserve. We also have a small contingency reserve of $42,000, but really in the amount that is anticipated for this, we don't have anything put away that would cover legal expense that large.
Thank you very much. I didn't think so, but I thought I'd have to ask. Before we call for the vote on this, I just wanted to say that it's certainly not without precedence for one council to pass on expenses for a project or whatnot to subsequent councils 5, 6, 10 years down the road. So I just, I certainly understand what Mayor Marshall and Councillor Rawson are saying, but there is precedence that shows otherwise. Having said that, I will call for the vote. All in favor of the amendment? Opposed? And carried. Thank you very much. Okay, now our clerk is going to read us the amended main motion.
I think what I'll be looking for is a mover to the amended motion regarding the retaining of the legal services of Russell Christie to, it sounded like council wanted that to be amended to that staff retain or report back regarding the options available for retaining this legal services.
And then we go on with the rest of the motion?
Yes.
Okay, is that clear as mud to everyone? Councillor Rawson? Very good, thank you. Seconded by Councillor LaRue. All in favor? And carried. Thank you very much. That was so easy. Now, okay, and we have nothing on the referral agenda. Do we have any questions from the media? Any questions? No? Josh?
I'm just curious, the first two items that you presented, the developers asking for extensions on there, is the reason for that public?
It's a fairly standard procedure that a developer gets a plan of subdivision and draft plan of subdivision, and then sometimes through for market reasons, sometimes they're arranging financing, whatever their reason is, that their 3 years come and go and they haven't proceeded. And that just happens frequently. We extend more often than we don't, and some developers get a few extensions, and it's just, usually it's market values that determine whether a development goes ahead. Does that answer your question? Because I couldn't get more specific with it.
I think it does answer I'm just curious with all the talk about the projection of the need for development, two developments that are already close.
Yeah, they're small, but that's quite frankly, we usually tend to give the extensions because we are anxious to see these already approved developments go ahead and get built. So I hope that answers. Okay. Where were we? We were adjourned. Oh, did you have a question? No?
All right, so we're on to Section D, Finance and Corporate Services, and I'll turn the chair over to the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Under consent agenda, recommended action. The following consent agenda items having been given due consideration be received for information. Do I have a mover? Councillor Mayotte, second by Councillor LaRue. Number one, information that we got from Electra Power Spring newsletter, donation requests from Tay Township in reference to their fundraiser that they're having, correspondence from Provincial Land and Development Facilitator Paula Del Rey, County of Simcoe, requests for meetings. And the last one was the 2018 municipal election accessibility plan. Does anyone wish to withdraw any of those? Yes, Your Worship.
Item number 2, the donation request from Tay Township, please.
Thank you. We'll call for the vote on the other 3 items. All those in favor? Carried. Your Worship.
Thank you very much. I know Tay Township's taken over the spaghetti dinner in support of Wymarsh, and I know they're attempting to get to the $10,000 mark this year in terms of raising funds for Wymarsh that is well deserved. So I'm just wondering, I don't have the staff report in front of me. Was there a dollar amount that council should be considering in that request? I believe the tickets are $30 a person. I can't remember.
Through you, Madam Chair, really what they've indicated, they're looking for the municipality support. They've indicated that the ticket prices are $20 a person or $35 a couple, $6 for children, 12 and under, but they haven't specifically asked for an amount other than to say tickets are available and they'd like municipal support.
Oh, I might mention there was a donation form included. And they had platinum supporter at $1,500, gold supporter $1,000, silver supporter $500, bronze supporter $250, friend of the Wymarsh $100. So that was part of.
Okay, no, thank you for that.
My apologies, I missed that page.
I don't know what amounts left in our budget line for that. I mean, I'd certainly move a friend at $100. I think that's appropriate. And give them a helping hand up for a worthy cause. I'd look for a seconder for $100.
$100. Councillor LaRue supports
Do I
that.
hear too?
All
Do I hear
those-
$250?
All those in favor? Thank you. Okay, now I got to go back. All right, so we're on to matters of consideration. D, the 2017 capital carry forward request and the 2017 draft capital taxation surplus. Recommended action that the 2017 capital carry forwards totaling $7,885,621 from all funding sources be approved, and that staff be directed to amend the 2018 capital budget to include the total 2017 capital carry forwards, and further that the clerk be directed to bring forward the necessary bylaw for council approval, and finally that the draft 2017 capital taxation surplus of $9,395 be included in the year-end surplus analysis report. Do I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Saunders, seconded by Councillor Leroux. Discussion. If there is discussion, Carrie, did you want to add anything?
No, not unless anybody has any specific
Okay,
questions.
if
I'd
there's
be
no-
happy to answer.
Very good. If there's no questions, I will call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Adoption of our 2018 tax rates. Recommended action that the 2018 tax rates be adopted as presented, and that the clerk be directed to bring forward the necessary bylaw for council approval. Moved by Councillor Saunders and Councillor Rawson. Discussion. Yes, Your Worship.
I just looked at the clerk, so we just said we had to contain that $300,000. So do you need to come back with a report, or is there wording in this amendment that you'd like council to put in there as presented plus 300,000? So whatever serves the treasurer's needs best, I think.
Madam Treasurer?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. The 2018 tax rates can be adopted, and the amended motion could read simply with an increase to the town levy of $300,000. Or we could go into further detail in terms of what the overall impact would be on the bottom line to the tax bill, so that when the bylaw is brought forward at next council meeting, council today is aware of the overall impact in the end.
Thank you, Your Worship.
So if I could, Madam Chair, then I'll just amend it in that that the 2018 tax rates be adopted as presented, in that that the amount of $300,000 be added to the budget, and then the clerk be directed to bring forward the necessary bylaw for council approval, and assumed, Carrie, when you bring that forward, it'll include the overall tax implications, town, county, education. You got that, Jeff? I kind of stumbled on that, sorry.
Yes, I believe our clerk wants to speak.
I think I have it that the 2018 tax rates be adopted as amended with an increase to the levy of $300,000, and that the clerk be directed to bring forward the necessary bylaw for council approval.
Exactly what I said.
Very good. Yes, Councillor Louder.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Does this also take into consideration the numbers that were already presented in a report on pages 98 to 111, those being the $7,000 that's already in potential budget, and then another $46,000 that's elsewhere? So we're removing those figures and adding 300,000, or are we going up with a total of 300,000 plus 46 plus 7, 353,000?
No, Councillor Louder, I do believe those amounts are already sitting in accounts, so they would stay there. Perhaps the treasurer would clarify that.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. The motion that I heard under Planning and Development section was to increase the operating budget by $300,000. So it would be in addition to any standing reserve balances that we currently have.
Oh, Dan.
Yes, Dan? Or Councillor?
Either or will do. I'm just wondering why we're considering doing 300,000. I don't believe that we're going to spend the entire amount in this budget year, so why would we budget for it in this year if we're not going to be spending it in this year? I mean, all the crazy times we've done this, since the splash pad to the gardening extra people, we do this all the time back and forth. So why don't we think about this for a minute and say, let staff find out approximately over the next 2, 3, 4 weeks what monies they will need, and then we can make the adjustment then. What if these people decide next week, or May the 2nd, whatever their date is, that they are not going to proceed? Now, we've already made a bylaw to say, hey, we're charging the town another 300 grand, but now we don't need it, so now we go back and change it again. What's the harm in waiting? We have some money in the contingency. Let staff go through, do their reports, find out approximately what they were going to need in the 2018 budget, and we'll deal with it then.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor LaRose. Councillor Levy.
Oh, okay, I thought, sorry. Oh, that's me.
I did say Councillor Levy.
Yes. I agree with Dan that, we're going to ding the taxpayers in 2018 an unknown, for $300,000 when the actual fee is an unknown sum. I just don't think it's any more fair than Jerry's point of view on doing it the other way. There's got to be some kind of equity here where,
Well,
so I would like to see that number, if nothing else, reduced to 150.
if I may ask the vice chair to assume the chair, I did have a motion that I was going to present. Yes, your worship?
Before you vacate, though, we just passed the motion to include the $300,000 2 minutes ago. And, so we've had this debate, and so it's already been moved. So if council wants to debate this 2 weeks from now, I suppose they can, but we've already debated this, had the argument about this year versus that next year. And to my earlier point, it's my belief that this council made that decision. The Treasury report clearly shows that we can be as high as $300,000. You can see it at $25,000 a day. They've got 10 experts. Those experts have to be matched with our 10 experts. So the $300,000 in my mind is possibly light, but this term of council made that decision, which we did, and we debated. And at the end of the day, I think it was 7-2 vote that we move forward, and that is the will of this council. So that is the will of this council, that this council should bear that burden, put it in our budget, so we don't kneecap or handicap those council members coming into the 2019 term.
Okay, thank you, Your
And we
Worship.
still have to ratify this in 2 weeks.
Yes.
So that you can do your thing then.
And it does get passed on all the time, guys. Look at the STP plan.
Okay.
We're
just a
dealing with
sec.
that from...
Just a minute now, one at a time. Councillor LaRue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question to our treasurer. If the 300,000 were approved in this budget, and we only use part of it, does the balance of it not just become surplus?
Through you, Madam Chair, if council approves an increase to the town levy of $300,000, for the purposes that I'm hearing, it would be put into a legal reserve so that it can be used to cover off expenses in any operating year, whether it be 2018 or 2019, and any balances would remain in a legal reserve unless based on council's direction, but it would stay in a legal reserve.
Okay, thank you. We've had good discussion. Madam Clerk, would you read the motion again, please, just to make sure we're all aware?
That the 2018 tax rates be adopted as amended with an increase to the levy of $300,000, and that the clerk be directed to bring forward the necessary bylaw for council approval.
Thank you very much. I have a mover and a seconder, do I? Yes? I will call for the vote. All those in favor? Okay, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 opposed. I guess it carries. Thank you, council. No guess about it. That's correct, Councillor Saunders. until 2 weeks from now. Okay, we'll move on to our last item, Council Code of Conduct and Integrity Commissioner update. Recommended action that the staff be directed to proceed with the joint Integrity Commissioner agreement with the County of Simcoe to appoint principals integrity, and that the training and creation of a code of conduct be complete with the 2018-2022 term of council. And finally, that the clerk be directed to bring forward the necessary bylaw for council consideration. A mover? Moved by His Worship, seconded by Councillor Saunders. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Referrals to upcoming agendas. We have that the Finance and Corporate Services section endorse the following additional existing referrals to upcoming agendas and staff. Do I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Rawson, seconded by Councillor Lauder. All those in favor? Carried. Question period from the media and the public. Worship, back to you.
Thank you very much. So I'll look for a motion.
My
to adjourn.
announcement, Your Worship.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Councillor LaRue. Sorry.
Just wish to announce, Your Worship, that on Thursday, May 3rd, from 5:30 to 7 p.m., here in Council Chambers, there will be a drop-in regarding the gateway concept. So the placards and posters and whatever else on display dealing with the gateway concept entrance into the municipality. So it should be very interesting.
Thank you very much. So I'll look for a motion to adjourn. 9:45. Councillor Rawson, Councillor Mayat, all in favor? Good night, everybody. Thanks.
That was intense.